as many of you know, the fire burning bright to recall Gavin Newsom has picked up steam. They have passed 1.4 million signatures on the way to the expected needed 1.8, as some of those big signatures will be thrown out. Unlike in the election, they are going to have signature verification. And believe me, the Democratic caucuses are going to investigate with some vigor. However, I want to add one big piece of wood onto that burning fire. California is an extra $20 to $31 billion in debt because of the incompetence of Gavin Newsom's government. What am I speaking of? Up to $31 billion, $31 billion worth of unemployment claims due to COVID that were just handed out, thousands of unemployment claims to one physical address. This was not investigated. This was not found out. Many felons were given unemployment insurance. They were sent debit cards. They were sent checks, whatever form it took. California is now in debt an extra $31 billion, thanks to the ineptitude of Gavin Newsom's administration. This is definitely an added reason to recall him. Recall Gavin2020.com. Print out the form, sign it, and send it in. This is very important. The reason being is because at least even if you replace Gavin with another leftist, they will realize that there are penalties that will be enacted if they overdo their ethos of incompetence. Now you take a look at this $31 billion. Now you add it to the fact that so many of the major taxpayers are fleeing the state as they up the amount that the high income earners pay in taxes, and people realize that they can telecommute. Many people are leaving the state for greener pastures. That's literal because California is also in a drought. That was exacerbating the fact that there were fires that raged throughout the state. Also part of Gavin Newsom's incompetence because they care more about PG&E and acting equity in terms of their hiring practice rather than competence. And this is something that will be progressing through the nation as we have mandated quotas as to who we can hire and who we must hire. It's not merit-based, but rather equity-based, and this is exactly what's wrong. And the problem is that I don't believe that California is going to pay the brunt of the cost. This is part of the reason that I actually moved out from the state. I wanted nothing more to do with California. The taxes were rising, homelessness was rising, traffic was getting overly congested, and I left. I didn't want to be part of that. That is part of the freedom that we exercise as U.S. citizens, is that we are basically able to move to a different republic, the republic being a different state. When you leave California, you leave those taxes. But no, lo and behold, because my prediction is that the federal government under Joe Biden is going to bail out states like California that have suffered from this absolute ineptitude, rather than putting the taxpayers who voted these progressives into office on the hook, keeping them on the hook for what they've done. And this is something that I full-heartedly disagree with. Once again, we are not having consequences for the actions that we have enacted. There's no personal responsibility. And the more that the government shifts personal responsibility against those who are either working very hard to save money, which is personal responsibility, and they shift the burden of people that don't, as in the trickle-down effects of taxation. And then similarly, the people that act with absolute ineptitude, we just bail them out. This is not a kind or gentler America. This is one where incompetence is rewarded, and all the money that is spent needlessly, for example, in the San Francisco School District to change the names of schools to the tune of millions of dollars because people don't approve of Abraham Lincoln because he did not show fealty to black lives while he was alive, despite the fact that he was the one who signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which of course resulted in his assassination by today's modern standards because he might have used the N-word while alive. This is reason to cancel him and spend millions of taxpayer dollars. Now, personally, I want no part of that, which again is why I left. And the problem is, as the federal government prints up this money or taxes, one way or another, the money is coming out of your pocket, out of my pocket, or of those who have saved their dollars, because we are then bailing out the ineptitude once again of Gavin Newsom in the state. Once again, sign the petition, recall Gavin 2020. remove this tyrant from office who has destroyed the state. All the states that kept their businesses open and have prevailed, it seemingly, during this COVID epidemic, while the others closed everything down, shut down their small businesses, lost their tax base, deservedly so. Why should the Florida and Texas bail out California, New York? This is not a shared burden. It's if a fire rages through the neighborhood and the neighborhood decides together we are going to bear the brunt of the cost, even though some people's houses got hurt worse than others, and you come collectively and you raise money for each other, that's totally understandable. If one person lights his house on fire, burns it to the ground, and then says, help, 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 no thank you, that's a very different story. That person should bear the personal responsibility. And in this case, that is California. That is Minneapolis, who did not send out the police and allow the city of Minneapolis to be torn down during the George Floyd riots. And when they went to the federal government, Trump said, no, you guys are responsible. What's Joe Biden going to do? He's going to send them the money, and this is the taxpayer money, going and rewarding the incompetence. And this is the problem that I have. I realize that some things are definitely a shared burden of the federal government, of the state. However, we do have different republics so that people can enact the legislation that they desire. And if California voters continue to vote these leftists into power that are going to ruin the great state that I once lived in, that I grew up in, that I once loved, this beautiful state that's being absolutely ruined by the policies, then they should have to pay for it so that they learn the lesson. You cannot, if you have a son, if my son were to continually lose money gambling and come to me and say, bail me out, there comes a time when I have to say no. You have to take personal responsibility and learn your lesson so that it doesn't repeat in the future. And this is something that I vehemently object to, and I hope that you guys do too, and that we can stand together against your money going out to bail out California and the billions of dollars that were fraudulently stolen because of lack of oversight that are the result of the Newsom administration. These schools that are spending millions of dollars to change their name and then saying that we want to raise property taxes. If you live in that neighborhood, do you really want to be paying for that with your property taxes? And even worse, you're not even in that area, and one way or another, that's going to affect you. So, something to chew on, the moral hazard of continually bailing people out. Whether that be Wall Street, whether that be California, whether that be Minneapolis. Unfortunately, under Joe Biden and the progressives that he has, where equity is the only thing that matters and the loyalty of the blue states and the progressive needs to be rewarded, unfortunately, this is probably what's going to happen and something that should be brought to the nation's attention. So if you think that's the case, by all means, share this video and thumb it up, turn that like button blue, make that a Smurf color blue. And it'll feel good when you do, I promise. And if you're new, subscribe, notification bell, share the videos so that people know, and recall Gavin2020.com. Fill it out if you're in California and send it in with your signature. Peace and blessings to everybody out there. Hope that this adds to your day.